Thanks, Don. It's always great to hear a message about the information that's going to help all of us run better agencies and serve clients. The next part we have here today for everyone is really part of that inspiration side of what Don's talking about. We've got a great video that we're going to watch right now that introduces the next speaker in a way that is unique and tells a story about resilience and adaptability. With that, I'd like you guys to turn to the screens and pay attention to a short 16-minute video about what that means.
It's unbelievable to be here after all that I've been through, to be able to finally make it to Michigan, put on that jersey, really is a dream come true.
For 20-year-old Austin Hatch, Chrysler Center at the University of Michigan has been a yearned-for destination. Not a finish line, a kind of promised land, reached only after a journey of biblical proportions.
Cleared flight level 220. 911, a plane just crashed.
And all of a sudden, big boom.
8 years later. Oh gosh, it is unbelievable.
When you're millimeters away from death, you look at life through a different lens.
He is a walking miracle.
Let's just say that the situation didn't look good. But here we are.
Hatch on the right side. Gave up the dribble, had it knocked loose, and a foul called, although we'll give Austin Hatch a chance to go to the free throw line. Bends the knees, on its way, and it's good. What a moment for Austin Hatch. Beilein gives him a big hug.
What he's gone through so far is miraculous. He said to me, Coach, the way I look, I've been so blessed through life. I've only had 2 really bad days in my life.
Around 6 p.m. on September 1st, 2003, an 8-year-old Austin boarded a Beechcraft 6-seater for a flight from the family cabin in Michigan to their home in Fort Wayne, Indiana. On board were Austin's mother, Julie, his 5-year-old brother, Ian, and 11-year-old sister, Lindsay. At the controls, his father, Dr. Stephen Hatch.
I was sitting shotgun with my father when some equipment failure took place. It just seemed to me that some of the lights on some of the screens went out.
At his father's instruction, Austin says, he checked the instrument panel with a flashlight. The engine was no longer working. The plane struck a utility pole and crashed just after 8 p.m. in Uniondale, Indiana. Fire swept through the passenger compartment. Dr. Hatch would suffer severe burns.
He threw Austin out of the plane and he tried to get the others out, and that is where the burns came from. So
he saved Austin's life.
He did. What happened after that?
I don't want to get into that.
Austin's mother, his sister, and his brother would not survive.
My father and I would often go to the gravesite. He would just hug me and tell me how much he loved me and how thankful he was to still have me. And I would say the exact same thing. I mean, he told me, Aus, you know, and we're just going to press on. That's what we're called to do.
The National Transportation Safety Board would attribute the accident to pilot error. Dr. Hatch would dispute that finding. He returned to work and to flying planes, as he had since 1997. Now, there was just Austin and his father and the game they both loved.
The best therapy we had was just being together. We'd spend long hours in the driveway. He would always make time to play me in one-on-one. And let me tell you, nothing felt better. The trash talk that would go back and forth between us, I mean, it was ridiculous.
Soon, there would be a new source of love and support. In 2004, Dr. Hatch met Kimberley Neal, single mother of 3, Brittany, Maria, and an Austin of her own. A romance blossomed.
I just remember seeing this picture she would put by her bedside, and I just kept asking her who these guys were, and she said, "You'll know soon, you'll know soon."
In May 2005, Austin was in the wedding party, as Stephen and Kim were married.
The mother-son bond is important, and I had lost that for some time. And she came into my life and reestablished that. She actually adopted me, and I call her Mom.
Within this blended family, his new older sisters brought Austin into their hearts.
We got to spend some time together, and he shared with me about his life prior to us, and ever since then, very close.
He was like so sweet to want to even be my brother. The fact that his heart was big enough to accept us says a lot about him.
By early 2011, Austin was a 6'6" standout sophomore at Canterbury High, already thinking about playing at the next level. One university stood out in his mind, the one his father cheered for, the one his late mother Julie had graduated from.
From an early age, I was taught to bleed maize and blue. The Michigan bond my mom and I shared, as well as the bond that, between me and my other family members was strong.
One night in February of 2011, Coach Beilein looked on as Austin went for 30 points and 16 rebounds.
I knew I was going to offer him a scholarship the moment I walked out of that gym.
He called me about 1:45 in the afternoon on June 15th, and I said, "I'd love to have you."
He says, "Can I accept right now?" And I said, "Are you sure? You want to sleep on this?" "No, I want to go to Michigan." I just knew this was a dream for him to play here.
There was a party at a local restaurant that night to celebrate.
The Beilein offense is, he kind of values the big shooter kind of guy, and I think I could fill in that offense pretty well for him. I've got a decent shooter, and I got some size, so I think that'll help.
We were all celebrating and being so loud that Dad bought everybody's dessert as an apology. There was a part where it was almost like he was a little kid, excited about it.
One of the proudest moments of his life of me. He knew what it took to get there, and how much work and how much time I had to put in to make that dream a reality.
Nine days later, on June 24th, 2011, Dr. Hatch decided to fly with his wife Kim and Austin to their Michigan cabin. The plane left Fort Wayne at 5:30 p.m. Bad weather forced Dr. Hatch to divert to an airport in Charlevoix, Michigan. At 7:20, he was cleared to land.
911?
Yeah, we just had an aircraft crash just north of the airfield. It should be on the street just north of the airfield. It's just to the left of, oh my God.
Okay, was it coming into the airport or going out?
Trying to come in, but he was coming in the wrong way.
Breaking news out of Charlevoix County. You're looking at the aftermath of a plane crash. 2 people inside killed on impact. Another passenger in the back of the plane suffered serious injuries. We're not sure on the condition of that person.
I started walking and pacing the room, screaming, "There's no way this happened again. There's no way this happened again." I just remember feeling, how is my whole family gone?
All the time that we put into making our new family, and how much I loved my dad. I knew I was never going to get it back. And to think that my sweet, sweet parents were gone. And my next step was to get to Austin. I knew I had to get to Austin.
Well, we heard he was in a coma, that he was severely injured to his brain, and that he might never wake up, and even if he did, that he might never walk again or might never talk again.
The plane crash that killed Austin Hatch's parents had broken both of Austin's collarbones. He had rib fractures, holes in his lung, fractures of his sternum and his left hip, and a massive brain injury.
I got there and immediately walked in and lost it. Fell to the floor, was screaming.
It's just too hard to see him unconscious, and wires left and right everywhere from toe to head. Just not even knowing if he was going to come out alive.
For 6 weeks, Austin lay in a medically induced coma. By July, his condition had stabilized, but he remained largely unresponsive.
He was in a wheelchair and he couldn't stand, and his head was supported and couldn't control movements. I couldn't believe that he survived for this. You've got to be kidding me.
When he was able to ask about his parents, Austin would receive the worst news imaginable.
What was it like to realize that you'd lost your dad and your mom?
Yeah, it's hard to put that into words. Losing a father who is not only your dad, but is also your best friend. And going through a loss a second time, I kind of thought to myself, I thought I already had my loss.
Forgive me for asking this. Were you angry at your father?
Never, ever, never, ever. Never, ever. He was, as far as I'm concerned, Steve Hatch, my father, was the man of the millennium.
Steve Hatch's dream had been to see his son at Michigan, on the team. It was Austin's goal, too.
I had basketball in my future, and I realized how much work it was going to take for me to get there.
Within the first few weeks, he just kept improving.
Oh, that's good.
He said to me, I'm going to play basketball again. End of story.
The last time that I saw him, you're watching a guy running and dunking and doing that. Now you watch a young man that has trouble putting one foot in front of the other. And it's very sobering, very sobering.
For more than a year, he continued to rehab, back home in Fort Wayne with his sister Maria as his guardian. Then, for his senior year, Austin moved to Los Angeles in 2013 to live with his Uncle Mike, who brought him to Loyola High School, and Coach Jamal Adams.
The whole goal really was to get away from the tragedy that he had survived and really put himself in his position to be as successful at Michigan as possible.
To train Austin, Rasheed Hazard, who'd rehabbed Kobe Bryant the year before, was brought in by Coach Adams, with words he'd always recall.
He literally asked me, "Do you want to be a part of a miracle?"
Snap, 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 snap. Keep it below the knee. Keep it below the knee.
For Austin and I, everything was about doing things with the proper mechanics and executing them the same way every time. And if there was one subtle difference, we did it again.
We spent a lot of mornings in the gym, 5:30, 6 a.m., getting work in.
He had this spirit about him that he could do anything. And he really believed it, and I believed it in him.
For months, they worked. Austin had not played in a game in nearly 3 years. Then, on January 8th, 2014, Loyola got out to a big lead.
I went down there and said, "Austin, this opportunity to get in is today. And he was like, "Hell yeah, coach, it's time to go."
And so, on his first shot,
I'd envisioned that shot for a long time, since I got hurt, really.
What did it feel like when that ball went through the net?
Old times.
People People ask me all the time, like, you know, what are your expectations for him at Michigan? And, you know, till the day that we die, I'll never doubt anything with Austin Hatch.
Austin James Hatch.
Austin would graduate from Loyola in June and head for Ann Arbor, where his Michigan scholarship awaited him and a spot on the team.
People keep thanking us or showing great appreciation for honoring this scholarship and doing all these things. I said, wait a minute, we're getting the blessing here. We're around a young man that is just incredible to be around.
He is a walking miracle. He just went full force, go big or go home, like Dad always said.
Austin Hatch has reached his destination, secure in the belief that he has never been alone, that his family will always sustain him.
I love you.
I love you too.
Those he has lost remain alive in his heart, guiding his progress as Austin continues on the most remarkable of journeys.
What do you think your parents would be proudest of?
I'm sure they'd be proud of me just being here, but I think they would probably be more proud of my outlook on life. They're still with me every day, still having a profound impact on the man I am and hope to become.
Hudson James Hatch was born October 14th, and I'd like to bring his dad Austin to the stage. Welcome.
Thank you all very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you all. I really appreciate it. It's an honor and a privilege to be here today. I trust you and your families, those closest to all of you, are doing well and staying healthy in the midst of the challenging times that we continue to find ourselves in with. COVID's still a thing. I was hearing in the presentation before, we're obviously in a challenging time with recession. I think we got the 2 negative quarters of GDP coming, right? So I think there's challenges. There's always challenges. There's always challenges. There always will be for as long as we live. But I believe adversity is opportunity. I really do. I believe adversity is opportunity because without it, we couldn't overcome. That doesn't mean we're grateful for challenges. Nobody's grateful for COVID or grateful for the recessions or grateful for family challenges or whatever it may be. Nobody's grateful for that. I'm not grateful for what I've experienced, the tragedies that you saw in the video. I'm not grateful for those. But I think at the same time, we can shift our focus from what happened or what happens to us, shift our focus from the circumstance to how we can find ways to thrive in the midst of them. Not just survive, metaphorically speaking, but I think we can find ways to thrive in the midst of any circumstance, in the midst of any challenge. So as you saw in the videos, by the grace of God, I survived both plane crashes, especially the second one when I was almost killed, right? By the grace of God, I survived. Nothing else, I believe. By the grace of God, I survived. But I was trying to find a way to thrive in the midst of it. I think the things that helped me and the people in my life, the doctors, the nurses, everybody in my life who helped me overcome, I think the principles that help us overcome that challenge can help us overcome and thrive in the midst of any challenge that we all face in the future. So I think that more than anything, as I said, I'm so grateful for all the doctors and nurses and therapists and everybody in my life that had a role in my recovery. Everybody had a role, whether it was a big role like the doctors who, brought me out of the coma, or it was the nurses or the therapists who are with me every day, teach me how to walk, or the people I pass one time, tell me they're praying for me and my family. Whatever, everybody had different roles, but everybody's role mattered. So I think that I'm just so grateful, and I think that's what a lot of things come back to. I think if we just have some gratitude in the midst of challenges and adversity, I've found it's hard to be grateful and negative at the same time. It's hard to be grateful and negative at the same time. That doesn't mean we ignore the reality of the challenges. I obviously acknowledge the losses that I have. My thoughts and prayers with anybody in the room who's lost people due to COVID or anybody else that has experienced loss in their life. My thoughts and prayers with you and your family. But I found if we shift our focus from the loss to the opportunity it gives us to honor them with our life, I found it's hard to be negative, right? It's hard to be grateful and negative at the same time. So to overcome the challenges that I faced, a lot of things had to happen. As I said, I'm so grateful for the people in my life who are there to support me along the way. But I think more than anything, I think it took some grit. I think it took some grit, right? And to achieve our goals, to achieve our vision, whatever it is for you and your teams, to achieve that vision, I believe it's going to take some grit. A lot of things are going to have to happen in addition. We got to know our business. We got to have the ball bounce our way. That helps, right? But I think if we have some grit in the face of adversity, we'll really find a way to thrive in the midst of any circumstance. You know, obviously with the recession coming, or maybe we're already in it. We are already in it, right? With the recession coming, I think if we have some grit, it'll help us not just get through it, but grow through it. Not just get through the recession, not just barely make it through, but I believe if we have some grit in the face of adversity, it'll help us grow through it. It'll help us grow through it. So grit to me is 4 letters. There's 4 key components to it. But first and foremost, it's driven by a greater purpose. I think grit is driven by working for something bigger than ourselves, whether that's your faith, family, friends, teammates, colleagues, the organization, right? Hopefully all of us are someone internally driven to be the best that we can be every single day. Because I think there is no substitute for having an internal drive to reach our full potential. That's so important. But I think having a greater purpose for why we do what we do is so important. Because that purpose, I believe, will drive us to do what it takes to not just survive the challenge, to just barely get by, but that greater purpose will drive us to thrive in the midst of it. So, you know, for me in my recovery, after the second plane crash, both plane crashes, but especially the second one, when I was almost killed, purpose of my faith and my family in heaven, I felt I could honor them every single day by how I chose to respond. How could I not give everything I had to my recovery when I felt that I could honor my family in heaven, right? So I think having that greater purpose is so important, but it can change. So I've been blessed to be married to the girl of my dreams for 5 years, and like the other guys in the room, I'm sure most can relate, I completely outkicked my coverage. I mean, I actually might have redefined the term. I think I might have redefined the term, outkicked my coverage. I mean, it's like you see her, you see me, you're like, something doesn't add up, right? But she's incredible. She's incredible, and we just gave birth to our first son, or my wife just gave birth to our first son on October 14th. So it's the greatest, thank you so much. Fatherhood is the greatest blessing in the world. You know, my dad was one of the greatest men of all time, as far as I'm concerned. Jesus Christ, my dad, and Coach Beilein, in that order. And I hope I could be to our son the kind of dad that my dad was to me. He was amazing. Miss him every day, but so grateful for the time that I had with him, right? But yeah, I think just having that greater purpose, remembering that consistently is so important, because that purpose, I believe, will drive us to do what it takes to overcome our challenges and find ways to thrive in the midst of them. So when you have that greater purpose, yeah, it's just something really that we're willing to sacrifice for. You know, because if we're working just for ourselves, you know, it'd be really nice if I overcame this challenge, but it's going to take too much time, too much energy, too much commitment, too much sacrifice to not know that it's really worth it. But if we're working for, right, your spouse, family, faith, whatever it is, I think we'll always do what it takes to overcome and get the job done. So when you have that greater purpose, I believe it drives grit at all periods, all times, but especially in the face of adversity. So my friend Angela Duckworth defines grit as passion and perseverance for the long-term vision, for long-term goals. She's a professor at the Wharton Business School, University of Pennsylvania. Pretty good, you know, not Michigan, but Wharton's, I know we're a lot closer to East Lansing here, so I apologize in advance for the Michigan references. But she says grit's passion and perseverance for the long-term vision. But I think it's defined more specifically than that. So it's 4 letters, 4 key components. First letter, the G, growth mindset. The growth mindset views every setback as an opportunity, every failure as an opportunity. You know, even when we inevitably fall short, we have a challenging year or challenging quarter or challenging week, whatever it may be. The growth mindset doesn't view that as a permanent condition. We can find ways to grow from it. We can find ways to get better from it. We don't get better from the event, from the adversity, Nobody grows from losing, from having a tough quarter or a year. You don't grow from that. But I think we can grow from how we choose to respond. Choose to look at that as an opportunity to grow, kind of like the whole start, stop, continue idea. Okay, what did we do right? What did we do wrong? So that we can find ways to get better from it. I'm reminded of how at Michigan, I was a part of some really good teams there. And we didn't lose that many games over my 4 years. But whenever we would lose, Coach Beilein would always come in the locker room every single time. You know, he'd list the things we didn't do right, we didn't execute, you know, the game plan we prepared for that we, you know, fell short of executing the right way. But then he'd always say every time, we're going to watch the film and find a way to get better from it. We're going to watch the film and find a way to get better from it. I think that's kind of a life idea, right? I think it's kind of a life idea because we're not all literally recording every moment of our lives. Every client meeting we have, we're not recording it. So we can't literally watch it and get better from it. But I think it makes sense to kind of replay the events, replay the challenges in our minds, right? So that we can look at it as an opportunity and literally find ways to grow from it. If we have that perspective, I believe we can turn negatives into positives. I really do. We can turn negatives into positives because if something is negative on the surface, right? Nobody asks to have a tough meeting. Nobody wants to have a tough meeting or a tough client. Maybe we think we're really close to do business with them. We think we're going to sign them up and then last minute they go another direction. Okay, well maybe it's something, they were just a difficult person to deal with, but what could we have done to influence that outcome? I look at it in my life, in this business that I'm in now, like I had some events that I thought were really, I was gonna like really close to booking recently, and then they decided to go another direction. Okay, well maybe that's them, but there's probably things that I could have done better to influence that outcome, right? So I think if we have that growth mindset, we'll look at negatives, that are events that are negative on the surface, but we'll turn those negatives into positives by shifting our perspective from only focusing on what happened to how we can use that as an opportunity to grow and get better. So when you have that growth mindset, I believe it'll drive us to make the decision to be resilient. That's the R. The R in grit is the decision to be resilient. Most people think of resilience as, you know, you're resilient if you bounce back from challenges, if you overcome. I get that. I kind of agree, but I think overcoming your challenges is a byproduct of being resilient. I don't think being resilient is focused on the outcome. I think being resilient in the face of adversity is taking massive action in the face of challenges and adversity. My dad always said, "Oss, whatever you do, man, whatever you do, go big or go home." He said, "Go big or go home. Don't waste your time going halfway." If you're going to go after something, school, sports, relationships, whatever it is, just go big. Just go big, right? And I think in life, in business, we never will lose anything by going big, especially in the face of challenges. As a dad, I'm going to do everything in my power to go big. As a husband, I'm doing everything in my power to go big. I can go bigger, I'm sure, but I'm doing everything I can. And the thing I know about resilience, going big in the face of challenges doesn't guarantee that we overcome. You know, after the second plane accident, as you saw in the video, when I was in a coma for 2 months, Coach Beilein came to visit me in the hospital in Chicago and told me he can't wait to coach me. I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't walk. So to get to Michigan from that state, I had to go big. And so many other things had to happen too. All the doctors, nurses, everybody was incredible. But if you go small in the face of that circumstance, that's going to probably guarantee you don't overcome. You don't achieve your goals, right? So why wouldn't we go big? But it's harder to go big in the face of adversity, though. It's harder to go big. So I think there's a couple lines from the cadet prayer at West Point that I think really apply to resilience. I think they're awesome ways to live life, too. If anybody in the room has served our country, thank you for your service, and thank you to anybody whose family members have served our country. Thank you, yeah. But there's a couple lines from that prayer that I think are just awesome. There's 3 lines. I'll say 3, we'll go through one at a time. So the lines are, and whatever you believe from a faith standpoint, I don't think it matters. First one, Lord, encourage us in our endeavor to live above the common level of life. Make us choose the harder right instead of the easier wrong. Never to be content with a half-truth and the whole can be one. So let's go through one by one. So, Lord, encourage us in our endeavor to live above the common level of life. I think to achieve our goals at any time, but especially in the face of challenges, I think you got to pray for guidance. Whoever you pray to, ask for encouragement to live above the common level of life, because it's not common to achieve our goals anytime, but especially in the face of challenges. It's not common. I think there's a lot more people in the world who don't achieve their goals in the face of challenges than there are those that do. So I think that if we want to be a part of that smaller group that achieves goals in the face of challenge and adversity, I think you need to pray for guidance, ask for encouragement to live above that common level of life. The second line, make us choose the harder right instead of the easier wrong. I think if, I'm not to get too like profound, philosophical here, I'm 28 years old, who am I to say this? But I think if there are more people in the world who chose the harder right instead of the easier wrong, I think it'd be a different place, right? So I think that but to achieve our goals, we're gonna have to choose the harder right. Like the harder right is showing up consistently and putting in the extra time, putting in the extra work, doing one more, whatever one more means to you, one more rep, one more hour, one more client meeting, whatever one more means to you. I think doing that one more, being disciplined, having the discipline in the face of adversity is hard. So I think we got to choose that hard. Not that that's right or wrong, but it's harder. So I think to achieve our goals, we got to choose that harder right instead of the easier wrong. And the last line, never to be content with the half-truth when the whole can be won. The half-truth to me is this challenge is going to make me better, or I'm going to grow from this. Or the other side of it is this challenge is going to be the reason I don't achieve my goal. Both could very well be true. Both are half-truths, right? Like it could be. This challenge could be the reason you don't achieve your goal. Very well could be. The recession could be the reason you don't hit the numbers you're looking for, or you don't serve as many clients this quarter or this year as we did in the past. The recession could be the reason, but it also might be the reason for great growth. Might be the reason, like, not that, who am I to give business advice? I'm not giving business advice here, but it might change your perspective and do things in a little bit of a different way, so that you actually exploit a new market or whatever it may be. So I think the growth, you could grow, but I think to grow, we got to be disciplined. We got to take massive action consistently. So the I in grit to me is integrity. And of course, integrity is being honest and doing the right thing when no one's looking. I know integrity is a big part of your business, and it's great. It's very important, as it should be. But I think the integrity also includes following through on our commitments, especially when there's a change in circumstance. So as you saw in the video, Coach Beilein offered me a scholarship, and I was playing for him at a pretty high level on June 15th, 2011. Had to get a lot better. I was only a sophomore in high school, or I just finished sophomore year of high school. But he saw potential in me that I could help the team win on the court by scoring and rebounding, right? The second accident happened 9 days later, almost took my life. By the grace of God, I came out of the coma. And as I mentioned earlier, when he came to see me in the hospital, I couldn't walk. And he said, "Austin, I can't wait to coach you, man. Whenever you're able to come on a mission, I can't wait to have you on my team." So his follow-through and his commitment to me didn't waver, even though the circumstances drastically changed, right? His follow-through and his commitment didn't depend on the circumstance. He made a commitment, so he made a commitment. He's like, at Michigan, it's what we do. It's a no-brainer. Of course I was going to follow through. It's just what we do. And I think about that from an organizational, culture, collaborative perspective, team perspective, right? If we can all do that, if we can all have our follow-through and our commitments to ourselves, to our teammates, to each other, to our clients, to anybody we do business with, if we can have our commitment, our follow-through be a no-brainer, everybody on the team knows that we're going to follow through no matter what. I feel like doing that once or twice, maybe not that big of a deal. But if everybody consistently buys into that over a long period of time, I feel like that can only help us win, right? That can only help us win. So making a commitment, though, is a very common thing. A lot of people do it. But if following through on that commitment, especially when the circumstances change, is uncommon. I believe following through on our commitments despite a change in circumstance is doing a common thing in an uncommon way. It's doing a common thing in an uncommon way. And the result of doing the common things in an uncommon way consistently, I believe, is we're going to leave people and places a little better than we found them. A little better than we found them. What more can we ask of ourselves, of anybody, than to consistently leave people and places a little better than we found them, right? So my dad, as I mentioned earlier, my dad was one of the greatest men of all time. So grateful that I had him as my dad for the 16 years. He's still my dad, obviously. But so grateful I had the 16 years to learn from him that I did. And miss him every day, miss my whole family every day, of course, but he taught me everything I know. Still learning from him to this day, actually, even though he's not here, which is pretty cool. But he would drive carpool 2 days a week, Wednesdays and Fridays, from 2005 to 2010 before I could drive myself to school. And I learned this from a family friend last summer, actually, that, so we'd go to McDonald's on the way to pick up my buddy and his little sister at their house, Wednesdays and Fridays, and I'd get my 3 sausage McGriddles. You know, I had a big appetite. Then I was playing sports, so I still have a big appetite. I'm not playing sports anymore, so I got to get on the Peloton, you know, go for runs, whatever. So I'd get these 3 sausage McGriddles, and the guy who was always there, who would give us our food at the window, the drive-thru window, was a guy named Josiah. Josiah was always there every time on Wednesdays and Fridays when we would go. And instead of just getting the food and driving away, my dad would take an extra 2, 3, 4 seconds, maybe 4 seconds, and just tell Josiah, appreciate you, man, praying for you and your family. Look forward to seeing you next time. Make it a great day. You'll be in my prayers. Like a very small thing, very small. Took no effort, right? My dad saw 40 or 50 patients a day, so he had busy days ahead of him. But he just took an extra couple seconds to tell this guy he appreciated him, he thanked him for what he did. And I was talking to a family friend of mine last summer that, and she said that cashier from McDonald's on DuPont Road, Josiah was at my parents' funeral for my dad, and second mom passed away in 2011. And I haven't seen Josiah in over 11 years since the last time we were at McDonald's in 2011, the spring of 2011. But I think the reason he went to my parents' funeral after my dad had already died is because my dad left Josiah a little better than he found him. Just a little better. I mean, he didn't buy him a house or anything, did nothing huge. Just took an extra couple seconds just to make an impact on him, make his life a little bit better. If we can all do that, we all have those people in our life that most people don't really pay much attention to. But if we can just go a little bit above and beyond to do those common things in an uncommon way consistently, you never know who it's going to impact, right? And here's the thing. Maybe for a lot of people, that wouldn't have made much of an impact on them, right? But for those that it does, it makes it all worth it. You never know who you can impact. Sometimes all people need to see is just a little example, like with being resilient. Maybe it doesn't set an example for that many people, but for the one person that it does, that it helps them overcome their challenges, it makes it all worth it. And having that integrity, doing those common things in an uncommon way consistently, maybe for most people, it doesn't make that big of an impact on them. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But for those that it does, maybe it doesn't change their life, but really makes a memorable impact on them, makes them think about things in a different way, it makes it all worth it. It makes it all worth it. So I think if we do those common things in an uncommon way consistently, and whatever they are in your business, I don't know what they are, but we all have common things in our life, kind of mundane things we just got to do, whether it's business related, life, family, whatever it is. If we can all just make a little bit of an extra effort to go a little bit above and beyond to do those common things in an uncommon way consistently, I think we're going to leave people and places a little better than we found them. So the last letter of grit is T. And T to me is the team first mentality. The team first mentality. So I know we're a lot closer to East Lansing here than we are to Ann Arbor, which is great. Michigan State's obviously a great school, great program. Coach Izzo runs a great program. I think we got a big game on Saturday, which should be fun. Coach Beilein always said it's the state championship every time. He said competing for the state championship, and so I assume there's more Michigan State fans in here than there are Michigan. Totally fine. I mean, maybe I'm in. It's okay. But I got some good news for you. So I'm definitely in the record books at Michigan, but I'm probably in the record books at Michigan State too. Obviously, I didn't play there, so they're not going to have me in the record books there, but I probably would be in the record books at Michigan State. So I am at Michigan. I have the proud title of the all-time lowest scoring full scholarship athlete in program history. So, of those who were able to play, right, I scored 1 point in 4 years. I scored 1 point in 4 years. So I didn't have the role that I hoped to have at Michigan, right? I would have loved to play in the big games against Michigan State, Ohio State, Purdue, Villanova, UCLA, Arizona, right? It would have been so fun. But unfortunately, my injuries took well out of my ability after the second plane accident. And but I think my role was about 5 things. I think it was about 5 things. First and foremost, be a great teammate. Be a great teammate. Shag balls in practice, rebound for my teammates and shoot them before games, bring positive energy to the gym every day, and work hard to be the best that I could be. I haven't asked Coach Beilein what the 5 things are you expect from me every day, but I think that was more or less my role. To be positive, bring energy, be the best that I could be, help in the ways that I could. I couldn't play in the drills. I couldn't help with the drills. Couldn't really do much to help on the court at all. I wish I could have. But I can. It doesn't take any talent to be a great teammate. It takes no talent to be a great teammate. It takes no talent to think about the team first, to take pride in our role, whatever it is, whether you're team captain, CEO, or whether you're, more of the supporting cast. Every role matters. Every role matters. And so I feel that a rising tide lifts all boats every day of the week. There's no way it can't. A rising tide lifts all boats every day of the week. There's no way it can't. There's no harm that can be done by all of us bringing our best every single day. Obviously, I know we're all human. I'm human. We're all human. We got things we're dealing with that may be the reason we don't bring it every single day. But I think if we can consistently show up, bring our best to serve others, serve our clients, and do our best to add value every single day, the team's going to win. The team's going to win. And so my coach, Laval Jordan, he was an assistant coach when I was there, he said, Austin, there's 2 kinds of people in the world. There's energy givers and energy drainers. If you're not bringing energy to practice every single day, you're draining it just by being there. One person can't make a team. Like in basketball, it takes 5 on the court playing as one and the bench 2. One person can't make an organization, obviously. But I think one person can break it, right? We could bring the whole team down by bringing negative energy, feeling sorry for ourselves, having the victim mindset, right? So I think if we have that team first mentality, we have that standard over circumstances. Whatever our circumstances may be, the challenges we're facing, if we remember the team's counting on us to bring it every day, to be the best that we could be every day, I think we'll be much more likely to do that, even in the face of challenges and adversity. So I think having that team first mentality is so important. It applies to everything. Sports, business, marriage. I'm learning fatherhood. I mean, I'm new to it. I'm 11 days in, so I'm new to it. 12 days in, so I'm new to it. But it's amazing, the greatest blessing in the world. And my wife has a role, has a lot of roles. I have roles as her supporting cast, right? So everybody has a role, and I think the roles are extremely important. It's kind of like there's a book called The Starbucks Experience. And it's about, the subtitle of that book is Turning Ordinary into Extraordinary. Turning ordinary into extraordinary, because obviously, Starbucks is it's created this global empire of, coffee, and I think, there's like 25,000 stores around the world, or whatever there is. Chapter 2 of that book is titled Everything Matters. Everything matters. And I think in business, in life, in family, whatever it is, everything matters. There are no little things, because the little things over a long period of time become the big things. And if something can have make a tangible, whether it's tangible or intangible impact on our business, on our team, on our family, it's not little. Maybe doing it once or twice is not that big of a deal, but doing it consistently over a long period of time has an opportunity to create a great competitive advantage. So I think having that team first mentality is so important. And I think we all just got to remember to take pride in our roles every single day, whatever it is, whether you're more of the team captain or more of the supporting cast. Every role matters. I feel like we owe it to the team to take pride in our role and make the effort every day to be the best that we can be. So that's grit to me. That's kind of my standard for myself. everything I do, I'm going to have some grit. I'm going to have that. I'm going to be driven by my greater purpose, my family in heaven, my wife, and our baby. And there's nothing I won't do for them. There's nothing I won't do for them. When I have that greater purpose, it drives the growth mindset. To always look for the opportunity in every situation. Drive us to make the decision to be resilient. The decision to take massive action in the face of adversity. Because you can go small in the face of adversity. You can decide to do that. We all could. But if we really want to overcome our challenges and achieve our goals despite the challenges, I think we got to go big. The I, integrity, always be honest, of course. Do the right thing when no one's looking, of course. Go about our business the right way, absolutely. But I think it's especially about following through on our commitments, even when our circumstances change. And so doing those common things in an uncommon way consistently. The last letter of grit is T. And T to me is the team first mentality. Every person here has a role. Every person on every team on the planet has a role. So I feel like we owe it to the team to make the effort to be the best we could be every single day. So that's grit. I think if we have some grit in the face of challenges, in the midst of adversity, in the midst of any circumstance, I feel like our team's going to win. I feel like we're going to win. So thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. Thank you.